Hi everyone and welcome. I am joined today by Frances Manwaring. She is the author of this gorgeous book, Never Succumb to Beige, and other tips for a colourful life, which I think we all need at this point. Welcome, Frances. It's lovely to have you.
Hi, Gabby. Thanks for inviting me to talk. I'm really excited about it, and so let's get into it.
Okay. Well, first of all, I want to say the name, the title, Never Succumb to Beige, very catching, and I would love to know, how did you come up with it?
Well, many years ago, in the mists of time, when I was still living in London, I was at a dinner party, and in that place after dinner, when everyone's loosening their belts, had a few glasses of wine, the host asked us what we would call our autobiography. And it was fascinating because everyone went into a competition to see who could come up with the best one. But it was quite interesting because I think in those days we just came up with something very glib. I think Frankie's Follies was my thing at the time. But it was a question that haunted me through the years, and I've come up with quite a few of them. In 30 years, there have been a few iterations. One of them was take your shoes off when you're wiping your feet on me, at the point when a relationship broke down. But it's changed a little bit as I've changed. But I landed on Never Succumb to Beige when I started a blog about 10 years ago. And again, then it was kind of more of a grabby title that represented a little bit about what I wanted to say. But I've kind of grown into it and I really love it now. And it works for me as a sort of personal mantra, a sort of affirmation as I've got older. But it's also a great call to action. So I don't know if you can see it. I've printed some badges out. It sort of works on that level as a little bit of a challenge to other people.
Yeah, I love it. I think it, like you say, it is a great mantra. It kind of just encapsulates everything that you need to know about what the importance of life is. Never succumbing to beige. And on that, what do you think the message of never succumbing to beige? Why do you think it's so important, and who do you want it to be aimed at?
Well, I mean, I think it's important because I think it's so easy to lose who you are. People tease me about beige. If I pitch up in a beige color of any sort, I can't live it down. But it was never about color, of course. It was always about attitude. And I think having lived, to live to the point that I have in my life, there have been moments where I've lost myself. It's so easy to find, for other people's opinions to sway you, or for societal norms to get to you. And I think it's a little bit, I saw the concept of Never Succumb to Beige as being, finding yourself and being true to that, irrespective of what life, chucks at you. And I think that's a little bit like you put your, the oxygen mask on first before you help the others. If you can stick to who you are, then you're going to attract people who are, like-minded. You're going to find it easier to see off, difficult situations because you're grounded in who you are. So the whole concept of Never Succumb to Beige was really about, to thine own self be true.
Wow.
Oh, and then it was for, I saw it as being probably for people, who are possibly in the later stages of their career or looking towards, possibly an early retirement, where there's an enormous evolution in how you think about yourself. But I also thought that it's on all the people my age to be an inspiration to younger people, to demonstrate actively that aging isn't, a horrible trap and something to dread, that there is still the possibility of being a colorful, dynamic and engaging person.
Wow, I love that. That's really good. That's a really good point. I think that, as you were saying, people maybe who are looking to retire, or, maybe there's something they don't know exactly what's going to happen next, and maybe they feel like, oh, it's kind of past, I don't have to worry about that. But never losing that zest and spark for life is something really important that keeps people going. So I love that. The way you describe the typical moments in life, like the simplicity of gift giving, that we always tend to get it wrong, it makes it incredibly hard to stop reading. What made you decide to write this way? Was it just a natural kind of thing for you?
Well, yeah, I have a degree in medieval history, and at one stage I wasn't doing a very good job. Most of our coursework was submitting essays. And in my first year, a tremendous professor of medieval history he was the spitting image of the late British comedian Kenneth Williams, took me aside and said, this isn't really good enough. And he actually gave me an idea what I was doing wrong. And essays are a form which are lovely because you start with a theme, and then you can explore it, and you can fall down a whole heap of rabbit holes as long as you have just a little bit of a lifeline to get you back out and then bring it back to a conclusion. So from that, I mean, from that time on, I liked writing essays. I've always enjoyed it. I like writing media releases, for example, which are kind of a short form, and blogging really is essay writing in a way, again, just a short form. But when I started to think that I could throw a bit of myself into the mix was when a UK friend who is, successful journalist asked me to write some bullet points for a piece she was doing on relationship breakup in mature people. And the bullet points I put together eventually led to a piece which is now in this book, which was Sorry Doesn't Always Make It Right. And she described what I'd written as confessional style writing. And I think what I see it as is a mixture of the things I'm interested in, the things that capture me when I'm reading or looking at stuff, but also, you know, then I can apply it through a lens of my own experience. And, you know, I see myself as an entertainer most of all, because, you know, I enjoy thinking that people might, you know, be a little bit inspired or amused or whatever, they, you know, some emotion that they would take out from it. But I think the form of an essay suits me. I think maybe I could have been a playwright. One of that piece, Sorry Doesn't Always Make It Right, I have actually written it as a one act play as well.
Okay, wow, that's exciting. I would actually love to see that. I think that this kind of this book, like, because it represents you know, real life and your real life as well, really interesting to see it played out on stage. I think that would be marvelous. So I hope that's something that happens later on.
Come the day, give me the time.
Yeah, I bet. Well, actually, tell me a little bit about the writing process. So from the idea conception to the editing and now marketing, how have you found it?
Well, I guess with this book, I mean, last year I published a book on branding, which was a professional book, very different process. But at the end of that, I got sick. And I thought, oh my God, I've got another book in me. I could do this one. And I thought, because I've been blogging for a long time, I've got a lot of themes that I was quite keen to explore. And I've written a little bit about some of them. But you know, the book's not all taken from the blog, but there were a few themes there that I hadn't really felt I'd done justice to, because they fascinated me. And so I thought, when I got sick, I was at home, and I'm not very good at being at home doing nothing. And so I worked like a demented being, which probably didn't help me get better, but, you know, it was a lot of fun. And I actually mapped out what I thought could make an interesting book with a whole series of sort of opinion pieces in it. And from that point of view, but, you know, normally the way I get inspiration for them is usually I read something or see something which catches my attention, and my mind starts playing with it. And I have a very lateral thought process. So I sort of play it out for things, you know, in what way can I also, if I was going to write about this, you know, what experience have I got that would be useful to comment on? And also, you know, like, I love history, I love, you know, arts and literature, I like music. So is there any, you know, are there any of these lenses that I can put across it? And that those feature quite heavily in it. So having got the ideas, having written it, I then thought with this one, well, you know, I could, I'm about to turn 65 when I was in the process of writing it. And I thought, well, I don't really have time to wait for a publisher to decide whether they're going to get it into print or not. So I thought, okay, I'll make the decision to self-publish. But then I also thought, you know, like, I am an expert in brand development. I'm not an expert in how to get a book into print. So I started looking for people, you know, to make a team around me that would make it possible. So I actually came to talk to YourBooks. Christine, your colleague, was amazingly helpful. She pointed me at an editor, and Juliet, who I worked with, and she was perfect. The humor about that was we already knew each other through the choir that we both sing in, but she was fantastic. So having a really good editor made an enormous amount of difference, because she got what I was trying to do. She didn't really look to change it much, but she amped up some areas. You know, she pointed out where metaphors didn't work in the context. And we had a lot of fun. We're both word geeks, so we absolutely geeked out on, you know, in places where it would work. So having a good editor, I mean, you cannot go beyond that need. And then, you know, I knew that I was going to print onshore, so I was really happy to find a local printer, and, you know, a local printer with all the knowledge and who were geared towards helping indies and, you know, inexperienced writers to get their projects off the ground. From that point, I thought, well, you know, I'm not going to go door knocking at book retailers. You know, I have a day job and I really don't have the time to do that. So I found a distributor who were prepared to take me on. But the biggest bit of it all was really then finding a publicist. because I have no, I don't have relationships with the media. And so I approached Lighthouse PR, and Karen from there, she's written about 20 books. She was fantastic. I mean, I think the Never Succumb to Beige theme is a good topic of conversation. And so she got me an enormous amount of publicity. So I think the journey, and then I wasn't really prepared for how much time and effort that would take, because responding to those questions were brilliant. But, so that was a bit the journey that I took. And we launched at the beginning of April, and we're now into about week 5. And, it's in quite a lot of the leading indie bookstores. It's on your sponsored site, the Underground Book Club. And so, it's going, so far so good. It's going quite well.
Yeah, I have seen it kind of taking off, and I think for good reason. So very, very exciting stuff for you. I'm sure it'll ramp up even more in the coming months. Do you have any advice for people who want to write a book like this?
I thought long and hard about that one. The first one was don't. No, I'm just joking. The next one was JFDI, baby. Get on with it. If you really want to write a book, I think everyone can. But it is, to me, the biggest thing is, like I thought about it when you asked that question. The first thing is be committed to it. You have to understand that you need to be consistent. Do it, every day. Do something. Move it on. I'm a very firm believer in the kind of 1 page a day, if that's all you can do. But if you can't commit time to doing it, you'll struggle. So you have got to carve out somewhere that's a regular slot, and preferably as often as you can. The second one is, if you want to write in my sort of style, you have to be prepared to be open and honest. I've rejected a few things because I haven't been prepared to really go there, because I don't really mind what I say about myself, but I do mind what I say about other people in my life, and I don't want to write things that could be in any way damaging to them. So I think if you're writing, you've got to be prepared to be authentic and honest, and discard anything that you don't feel comfortable about. Also, if you're writing essay and opinion, you've got to be prepared. I haven't been attacked. People have actually liked what I've said, but I avoid. I don't like the culture wars. I've avoided sort of trying to point fingers or raise inconvenient truths. But I think I have known that I might be called on some of it, because although it's opinion, it doesn't necessarily it doesn't necessarily meet the current vibe sometimes. And so I think you've got to be prepared for that side of it. And also, if you're being interviewed, you are being interviewed on your own merits, really. Whereas if you write fiction, you can stand behind your characters and what they might have done. So those are, find the time, commit, be open, and be prepared.
Oh, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I never really thought about the repercussions of writing specifically about yourself and the other people in your life. So that's a good point, I think, to make for everyone who is wanting to potentially write a book similar to this. And in all the advice that you give in this book, is there one gem in particular that you think everyone should know about?
Well, I finished up with the last chapter is, it's never too late to be who you might have been. And I think, that's the biggest bit of advice I think I can give, because, conditions apply quite clearly. If you don't live in the States, you're probably unlikely to be able to be president of the US. I don't think at my age I'd be going out to become an Olympic pole vaulter. But, there are a lot of things. And I think, I thought about, there was a great book, What Color is Your Parachute? And even if you can't be as you get older, if you can't be physically or, time-wise with the energy, you've got everything you want it to be, you can, I've thought about a new thing that I can do, actually, funnily enough, out of all this process. But I think you can find a part of it that you could do or that you could commit to. And I think if you do that, if you can really say it's never too late to be what you might have been, you can find a purpose which will keep your life, vibrant and viable.
Yeah, good point. And I love that it's the last chapter too, so people have to read it to really get into it. Do you have any more plans for any other books coming, a sequel maybe to Never Succumb to Beige?
Heaps. I have so many ideas kicking around in my head. I've got one that I've started, which is, I think, the next one, and I'm about 3 chapters into that. But I've actually, as I said, this process has given me a little bit of pause for thought. Then I have actually contemplated something else, which I might do sooner. But so I've got about 3 in the pipeline. That it's just a question of, deciding which are the right ones to go with. But yeah, I've got so much I could do, but I'm not. I'm in the process now of committing to the next one, and I'm really excited about doing it. But the business of publishing gets a bit wearing when all you want to do is keep writing?
Well, this is, yeah, I can imagine that is definitely a factor, but this is very exciting to hear. I'm sure that anything that comes out from your fingers, it's going to be great. So everyone, if you would like to have a wee read of this book, I really highly recommend it. It's not just for people, it's not just for people who might be, in retirement and trying to figure out, what's next in life. It's for everyone. I don't think that you can really go past this kind of wealth of knowledge. So get your hands on it now. And Frances, thank you so much for joining me. It's been absolutely lovely talking to you. I wish we could chat more about all of these different types of topics. But yes, again, thank you so much for joining me.
It's a pleasure, Gabby. Thanks for having me. And we'll catch up another time.
Lovely.